I think this is probably the first year that we've had no pumpkins on Halloween, which is today. But it's been a really strange year. We tried growing some of those Jack Be Little pumpkins that we grew last year and they did perfectly fine. We got quite a few off that. But for some reason this year, all that kept happening is the pumpkins grew and then they fell off and rotted. I think that was probably due to the fact that it's been so consistently rainy for pretty much most of summer. There was quite a lot of things that never got pollinated, because that will cause things like pumpkins and courgettes to start to rot on end and then the fruit falls off. So there's not really much we could have done about that. But in past, I've had pumpkins of this size just growing outside in garden. And that's because they've got more chance of pollination than the Jack Be Little that was in a greenhouse. So I think in future I'll just grow regular pumpkins and we'll grow them outside so we don't miss out on today again. And I'll still grow some of those Jack Be Littles or even those little boos, which are the same type except they're white. But we'll do them in containers outside. I'm not going to grow any more pumpkins in future in a greenhouse. It's too restricted, and it's proved that this year with the courgette we had in this greenhouse as well. The courgettes just kept growing to a certain size and falling off. Lack of pollination once again. So we'll just stick to what we normally do in as greenhouses, like as tomatoes and peppers, because there's always bees buzzing around those. I have been noticing though how cold it's getting at the moment, so a lot of things aren't doing so good. Or rather, they are growing, but they're growing very slowly. We took a couple of carrots out of there the other day and was quite pleased with the size of them. They weren't huge carrots, but they're never going to be huge carrots when you grow them in quite a shallow container, but they were big enough for us. That's all that really matters. We're still in the same position with these brassicas as well. They're just not growing very good. I shown you these a few days ago, cauliflowers. White leggy due to lack of light, and then we've got a couple of kale plants, and there is a couple in there that don't look too bad, but very poor germination and very slow growth. So I think I ought to try and salvage a couple of these plants at least. And then we've got that little gem lettuce which has grown a little bit more once again, but it's very slow this year. And I think I'm just going to leave that for a moment. I was contemplating pricking some out and moving them on, but there's plenty of room in that tub for these plants to get a lot bigger than they are. But due to the cold and lack of sun, everything's on a go slow. I'm going to see if I can salvage a couple of these brassicas. I'm not expecting much from them, the way that they've grown to start with. They've had a pretty poor start. Maybe we can get a couple out of this. And then we'll see how they do. And to be fair, tomorrow it's 1st of November, so we're getting very close to end of year and those temperatures getting colder and those light levels reducing even more. So if we can salvage a couple, we'll do that. I did find this quite amusing though. A pepper plant that I just left in garden in a container. We've not even weeded container because we've pretty much get up on peppers now for this year. But this one has got a pepper growing on it. It's a very small pepper. It's not going to come to anything, but it's kind of insult to injury. We spent all this year babysitting all those pepper plants in that other greenhouse, and they grew bigger than that one, and they got quite a few peppers on them, but a lot of them were small as well, and just like that one, they didn't ripen. And that's because there wasn't much difference this year between outside and inside a greenhouse. But that one is still having a go, although I'm not too bothered about them now. And that's been outside in all these cold night temperatures. Anyway, I've just filled up a pack with some compost and I'm going to dig out a couple of those plants and see if we can save a few of them. I'm going to have to make really deep holes in these as well, because we know they're leggy, so they've got to be buried really deep. And I think there's quite a few people over the last few months that's just stopped sowing seeds now. Once we hit autumn, people start to get a bit fed up of it because of the dampness and air constantly. Let's see if I can get a couple of these kales. To be honest, I might only be able to get one of these. Looks like something's had a bit of a chew. Let's take this one out. They're the ones that look the best. Very damp compost again. I'm going to split this. See what we get. If I only get one, it's better than nothing. Really good root systems, but pretty poor plants. We'll give them a go. But we're going to have to poke these really deep into that compost to get rid of that stretch and then firm them down. It don't take 2 minutes to do. It's just a little disheartening when you've been waiting for these to grow for so long and then it's produced quite poor plants. And even more maddening when you get root systems like that. So we'll take these two. Pushing them right down to that first true leaf. And we've salvaged two. I don't think I'm going to bother with the others. So let's have a look. See what we can salvage from cauliflowers. These have really stretched, so they're going to be hard work. They're way too long. But we'll make best of a bad job as always. It's all you can do at this time of year. Make the best, or just don't bother. Trouble is the roots are quite tangled in this. So hopefully we can separate them without too much damage. That's a really good sized plant and the roots aren't too bad either, so we'll have that one for a start. But we're going to really struggle to bury this deep. Normally we'd bury it so deep that we'd take the bend out of that stem, but I think on this occasion it's not going to work as good as it normally does. I think that's the best we're going to get from that. They are quite poor looking plants. Just going to take them all out. There's no point in leaving any of these in here anymore. They're only going to get worse unless we move them on. It's bad enough competing with slugs on a daily basis. That's quite a small one. There's nothing hardly to them and already they're getting yellow leaves. But I'm not planting that with 2 little leaves on it. Let's take another out. See what we've got. That one has got a true leaf on it. It's not brilliant, but I'm going to put it in anyway. I think at this point, yeah, I'll just take anything. And again, we'll push that as far down as we can, but not as far as we really need to. But there's nothing we can do about that. Let's take a look at these as well. That's not a bad looking one. Plenty of roots. We'll have that. We're not going to be too fussy about anything today. I think we've passed that stage. And then I'm just going to pop that in. In fact, I'm not. I'm going to leave that one. I think I'll just pop that in. Push that really far down. And we don't have to label it. You can tell the difference between cauliflower and kale. And unfortunately, that's about as good as it's going to get. And meanwhile, that pak choi is also growing very slowly and a lot of leaves are starting to yellow. So, not brilliant for end of October. We haven't got any pumpkins on Halloween and the plants that we've got growing aren't growing very well due to the continuous overcast days and damp days as well. It's every reason for a plant not to grow. But we'll still keep trying. We'll prick out what we can, we'll move them on, and we'll hope for the best. And we'll get a little bit of summer. We know we've got loads and loads of carrots to come in time for Christmas. And we've got a few onions growing over there. We've still got a bit of salad on go as well. And even that is really slow going. Then we've got that fresh batch of spinach, haven't we? Hopefully that's going to come to something. After all, it does prefer growing in colder temperatures. I think now's the time for it to prove that point. Especially since all summer long, all it's done is go to seed because it was too warm. So the last day of October, tomorrow moving into November. So I'll have a look and see if there's anything we can be sowing through November that's got half a chance of producing anything. If not be this year, but early spring next year. And if you want to see if there's anything that you might want to sow and grow in November, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care.